right here, y'all. What it do? All right, we had a lot of technical difficulties, so I apologize for that, both on Instagram and on Streamlabs here. So we are going to hope and pray that this works. So far, I think we're solid, but you never know. So let me just get set up right here. Make sure everything's working properly. I don't want to get into this without, knowing now. I think everything's good, fortunately. Okay. So, um TK the prophet said do better. All right. So, now that everything is properly working, why are we here today? Well, because um the pitch Bible for my cartoon Vulture of Laruke, I just released it, right? Um And so I thought it would be a good idea to kind of go over everything that I created thus far and sort of just explain all the different things that are within this pitch Bible. For anyone who doesn't know what a pitch Bible is, it's basically the first step to making a show or a cartoon, kind of providing all the ideas you have for the cartoon and kind of laying them out to explain all the most important parts to the show or movie or various other forms of media. You could do this for a video game as well. Um, but yeah, without further ado, I could have probably said that a lot more professionally, but kind of just a little bit frustrated with the technical difficulties I just faced. But yeah, we're gonna get into this. All right, so real quick, the executive overview for my cartoon kind of just put in direct terms. Let me just read this out loud for you guys. So, Vulture of Laruke is an immersive action adventure cartoon with a serious tone. The land of Laruke is vast and there are many areas of land to explore. However, there are many dangers that are littered throughout the land as well. While protecting himself from standoffish warriors and beastly creatures, Vulture must also find food and shelter on a daily basis in order to survive. His goal is to destroy an ancient ruler who was resurrected from the grave in order to avenge the death of his parents. So basically, throughout the cartoon, it's very action oriented, right? There will definitely be jokes here and there, some nuanced humor, but for the most part, it's very serious, action adventure oriented. So, a lot of places to explore, a lot of battles and fighting and things like that. That's my goal. Um, the land of Laruke is vast, and there are many areas of the land to explore. However, there are many dangers that are littered throughout the land as well. So, um, there's kind of a stark contrast between like the beauty of the backgrounds of the cartoon and just the diversity in like landscapes. Um, Kind of matched with really dangerous warriors and creatures, and so there's just kind of a nice contrast to kind of lure the viewer in to this world and these characters. Um, and Vulture also has to find food and shelter on a daily basis, so there's a lot of stakes in the cartoon. um, basically just to make it that much more immersive and kind of grab you and kind of have you on the edge of your seat. There's a lot of things that Vulture has to go through on a daily basis or an episodic basis, and so I want there to be a genuine sense of like concern for these characters when they go through these things. Um, and the most important here, his goal is to destroy an ancient ruler who was resurrected from the grave in order to avenge the death of his parents. So we'll go a little more into this and very very quickly here. Um, but this is the most important because this is the entire premise of the show. His goal is to destroy an ancient ruler who is resurrected from the grave. We'll talk about him very shortly, and then it's to avenge the death of his parents. So that's the reason why this show exists, basically. Alright, so Vulture is our main character, our protagonist. He's not a perfect hero, and as time goes on, he will become more heroic. Um, but when you first meet him, you know him as sort of just this nomadic traveler. You don't know if he's necessarily a super good guy or anything yet. Um, but that's sort of his path. He becomes more of a hero for the people of Laruke over time. Um, so he grew up in a small village by the name of Caravan, and so when he was young, um, he was trained to be a warrior. And when his childhood village was attacked and he lost his parents, um, he became very very vengeful of the main antagonist, which again we'll cover very shortly. But he's very reserved, intuitive, and driven to avenge the death of his parents. So he's very quiet, but he's very determined and he's very smart. All right, so this is the main antagonist that I um, alluded to earlier. His name is Lord Hashimoto. Lord Hashimoto was the ruler of ancient Laruke. His main goal is to reclaim Laruke for his own personal gain with his army of minions. He possesses many powers that he channels through dark magic, making him extremely powerful. So, um, basically, there's a long story behind Lord Hashimoto. He has a very distant past because he is like thousands of years old, and he's sort of reclaimed life. So he was the ruler of ancient Laruke, and through dark magic he sort of got resurrected. And so his main goal is to reclaim Laruke for his own personal gain. And he has many different types of minions, which we'll get into shortly. He possesses many powers, which we'll also get into very shortly, which make him extremely powerful. So he is the main antagonist. So he is the second most important character in the whole series here. This is Hashimoto right here. This is his minion. So Hashimoto's first power is Dark Intuition. Hashimoto senses when his minions are nearby, and he feels an immense amount of pain when they die. He can also control his spies telepathically. So because Lord Hashimoto has many different types of minions, some of them are receptive to this power, and some of them aren't. He has organic minions that are sort of controlled with dark magic, but he also has robotic minions that are not. So this applies to the organic ones. Um, Basically, if he sends a troop of, some of his organic minions into battle and they get defeated, he can sense that. And the more that they get hurt, the more he gets hurt. So on the right here, you can sense him sort of like feeling that, sort of getting like a spidey sense, so to speak, um, which he can manage. But if, you know, a large amount of his minions get destroyed, then he's going to become enamored with this very powerful, I guess, like pain, and he can't really control what's happening to him in that moment, and he is just very, very, um, very hurt in that moment. Okay, so Lord Hashimoto's second ability is a Necro Orb. I like to think of it kind of like a Spirit Bomb from Dragon Ball Z. Um, they're basically orbs made of dark energy that explode and deal a certain effect called Shadow Burn, which I think is important to note for the last few slides. Um, Maybe I'll remember to bring that up. But basically, these orbs of dark energy explode upon impact, and the larger that the orbs are, um, the more powerful they are. So, basically, Lord Hashimoto can make like a spirit bomb out of these, and they can get very large, and then he can throw them at a village and basically destroy the village. Um, but larger orbs also drain more of Hashimoto's energy here, so um, it is very detrimental for him to use that and do that, because he probably will have to recover for days after he does that. Whereas if he does a smaller one, he's fine and he can keep battling. Um, but we'll continue. So Lord Hashimoto's third ability here is called Obsidian Armor. Um, So when all other options are exhausted, Hashimoto can harden into solid obsidian and become invulnerable for long periods of time. This power lasts for many years, allowing Hashimoto to predict the outcomes of his plans. So, um, Hashimoto can do this whenever he wants. The problem is that he cannot control when he comes back out of this state. So, if Hashimoto is about to die uh, again, we'll say, because he is already sort of dead. Um, if he wants to, he can use this ability and he's invulnerable. No one can kill him, basically. He's completely, basically obsidian. His whole body is obsidian in that moment, and anything that is like on him or that he touches is obsidian. It cannot be broken. So he can do this, but he's stuck with that for years. And um, the only thing that he can do in this time is sort of predict the outcomes of his plans in the future. So taking in everything that he knows at that current point, um, when he does this, he now has time to think of like how technology will be in a few years when he gets out of this. He has time to think of like his plans on how he could, conquer the land of Laruke once again. So he has a lot of time to think, and that's basically what he's doing here while he's invulnerable. Now, this isn't necessarily much of a power, but he is a master at using a katana because of his training. So, Lord Hashimoto was trained as a child to use katanas at a masterful level. Even as an undead overlord, he still trains with his enchanted katana on a daily basis. So, um, it's enchanted. Uh, Truthfully, there's a few things that could be sort of added to that. The extent of the enchanted katana is sort of left to be kind of freely explored. But for the most part, he's very skilled with the katana, and he can kill his foes very easily with a katana. again, not much of a power, but extremely powerful ability still. Okay, I think this is his fifth ability. I could be wrong, but basically, Lord Hashimoto can control fire. So when his minion here walks into the room, because he is an organic minion of him. This is his royal diplomat, which we'll cover very shortly as well. But when he enters the room, this fire sort of leans in to Hashimoto because he can sense it. So the frequency, so to speak, of the fire is sort of in tune with his state of mind. And so when he gets angry, that fire will rise and sort of explode. If he gets extremely furious, that will happen. So in a sense, he can use that unknowingly to his advantage. If he's surrounded by fire and he explodes, he's burning everyone around him. But also it's linked to his state of mind is the main point. He can't consciously control it. It's all sort of just subconscious. Okay, so this is sort of exploring Hashimoto's past. This is about young Hashimoto. So his real name is Shanu Hashimoto. He was thought of as a bright kid who would soon become the ruler of ancient Laruke. Studying dark magic in private led him to destroy his father's empire when he was denied the throne. So he started off a relatively curious, smart kid, but his curiousness and his progressive values sort of went against his father's plans and how he ran things. And so it led him to explore dark magic in private. And this dark magic slowly consumed him. And as you can see, this is him as a child, this is him as an adult, and this is him sort of after he studied dark magic for an extended period of time, slowly becoming more mad. Something like Palpatine from Star Wars, just becoming more and more evil and kind of consumed by this darkness. So Hashimoto died many years ago. This is ancient Laruke times, so very far into the distant past. Hashimoto becomes very old and ill and uses dark magic to preserve his essence, which in turn kills his mortal self and destroys his empire. So basically, he killed himself, his mortal self, but his soul sort of remained in his bones, so to speak. So he's still alive, but he's trapped in these bones. And all of the survivors of ancient Laruke flee and they become oracles. They're also sort of immortal at this point, and they know of this era of Laruke and they hide out very deep in mountains and caves and things like that. Okay, so Hashimoto's royal diplomat, this is basically Hashimoto's right-hand man. The diplomat was created from the body of a collector and transformed with dark magic. Hashimoto's diplomat is bound to Hashimoto's rules. So basically, there was a collector looking for ancient artifacts from ancient Laruke, and Hashimoto's soul trapped in his bones, he's still conscious, and tricked this collector into grabbing an artifact, we'll say, to prevent spoilers. And basically this darkness from this artifact consumed this collector and made him essentially become this minion to Lord Hashimoto and completely transformed him. So this is the real diplomat right here. now we're going to explore his other minions. So each of Hashimoto's minions has their own unique abilities for different scenarios. As I said uh, before, a lot of them are organic, but a lot of them are also robotic. So there's sort of two different types of main categories of minions. But within these categories here, we have undead soldiers, shape shifting spies, and giant robotic scorpions. And that's just a portion of his forces. So we're gonna get to this next slide here. So as you can see, there's a lot of different types. It's not just scorpions and undead soldiers. And again, these are just some. I have a lot of ideas for more, but it's not important to flesh all of those out. But these are some of the robotic ones. These are some other ones that I hope to implement in the future. Can't give too much away on that. These are Hashimoto's spies, which he can control telepathically, like I previously stated. These are more like guards, but again, they're also spies. And yeah, these are the dead soldiers, giant robotic scorpion, and another one that I don't want to elaborate too much on yet. Alright, so Hashimoto's Death Tower, it's home to factories, quarries, training facilities, and slaves. Hashimoto enslaves people and the creatures of Laruke to build vast armies and technologies to conquer the land once again. So he enslaves people to gather materials, he enslaves people to run factories, he enslaves people to even fight for him if necessary. Anything he can do to sort of just take control of the land of Laruke once again. And that's all within this one tower here. So, the ancient artifact that the collector had picked up leads to this giant cloud of smoke coming from the I guess you would say chimney or like smokestack. Again, it revolves around dark magic. Excuse me, I have a little bit of something in my throat there. But within this tower you can see there's these quarries of different minerals and materials. There's these factories, there's vehicles and robotic scorpions right here. There's a training facility, there's sort of an overseeing office here, robotic factory up here, or storage you could say. Then this is a giant tower on top with the smoke sort of being revealed. So again, once I don't want to reveal too much of Hashimoto's backstory. I feel like I've already revealed a pretty good amount, but these are all things that will be sort of uncovered in future episodes and stuff. So I don't want to give too much away. So throughout the show, there are going to be many different characters, allies, and especially enemies of Vulture. Vulture has, I would say, very few mainline allies, and one of them is Vic. So after Vulture's parents were killed by Lord Hashimoto, he was found by Vic. Vic took Vulture under his wing and taught him how to live on his own. Vic is a merchant and retired bounty hunter that is still a target to many. So when Vulture finds Vic, Vulture's very young, and Vic is, a merchant. He's a retired bounty hunter, and he's just kind of selling fish and other goods. and Vic realizes that Vulture is from Caraban because of the way that he uses a sword. Um, and basically, he takes Vulture under his wing and trains him even further to become the warrior that he is. And so this is Vic, obviously in more of his bounty hunter armor here. Alia is a character that Vulture meets along his journey. She is the daughter of a great swordsman named Arid, which we're going to cover in like a second. And she's a very skilled warrior who wants to destroy Hashimoto and his empire. So she's a lot more altruistic than Vulture is, especially in the beginning, because she genuinely cares about the residents of Laruke and really wants the greater good to sort of shine. And she wants to do anything to help out in any way to destroy Hashimoto. So because Vulture wants to destroy Hashimoto for his own personal vengeance, for his family, Alia wants to actually save the people of Laruke, so they find common ground there to destroy Hashimoto. She's also raised by the next character here, who's very, very talented with swords. But she's also trained with guns and things like that, and has learned a lot along her journey. So Arid is, I would say, a really, really deeply an anti-hero. So occasionally he is sort of an ally to Vulture, um, and an enemy to Lord Hashimoto, but he's not someone that Vulture really would like to work with a whole lot, or that Vic would like to work with a whole lot. Arid is a notorious swordsman who has also studied the dark arts, much like Hashimoto. He merges dark magic with his sword wielding abilities to create deadly attacks against his foes. So he's got some really cool, like, you know, uh, dark magic sword abilities, kind of just combining the two, of being an uh, extremely notoriously skilled swordsman and being a user of dark magic. Um, but because he uses dark magic, of course, has a little bit of he has a little bit of evil to him because his mentality sort of deteriorates with his use of dark magic. Um, and he admires Hashimoto, but simultaneously wants to take his place as the Emperor of Laruke. So, Arid, again, because of his use of dark magic, he wants to pretty much take over the land of Laruke for his own personal gain as well. But he does want to kill Hashimoto, and because of that, Vulture, Vic, and Alia will occasionally work with him. The problem is that he is the father of Alia, so there are some issues there, which throughout the series we'll get to, but again, not something I want to talk about too much. Spoilers, other things, so you get it. So this is Arid. He's got some badass armor, and he notoriously uses two swords. Alright, so the lore in Vulture of Laruke is very heavy. It pushes a lot of the stories along. I think it really makes the world so much more immersive. And, I'm obviously a huge fan of Adventure Time. So lore really means a lot to me in the land of Laruke and really world building and things like that. It just makes a cartoon or any sort of form of media just so much more immersive and accessible. Not necessarily accessible, but um, it makes it just so much more exciting and feel so much more real. Um, than if there's not as much world building. So throughout the progression of the series, many backstories will unfold. Connections from the past will affect the present, and devastating memories will be revealed. So a lot of heartbreaking memories. Um, a lot of things from the past will affect the present. Sort of meeting new people, seeing their stories throughout this journey. Um, Many episodes will focus on side characters, which will make the Land of Laruke feel very immersive. In certain episodes that don't focus entirely on Vulture may provide different tones that make the series diverse and exciting. Um, I kind of think of, like Mandalorian in Star Wars. It's kind of like a side story that is really, really interesting. Obviously, it's a huge show. People love it. And there's a reason for that. It's because it adds to the world of Star Wars, but it also focuses on a new, unique character. And I think, you know, um, not that there needs to be like a spin off or anything. I think that's thinking way too deep into the future. Um, but just side episodes for characters that Vulture may briefly meet or connect with later. Um, to sort of just watch them go through their daily life and see what they do to survive, I think is really interesting. And I think it, again, will make the show just so much more immersive and just make the viewer feel like they're there and they're watching this person live their life. Um, you know, not that that will be always what happens in episodes, but I think episodes focusing on other characters are very important for that. So I don't want to talk too much about these images here. I just wanted to sort of linger in your head of what could happen, what might have happened. So this is the timeline of Vulture of Laruke, just to kind of recap everything I've said so far and what the premise of this show is. So um, it all starts with Hashimoto's reign, way far back into the distant past. Hashimoto overthrows his father and becomes the ruler of ancient Laruke. Sorry, misspoke there. Ancient Laruke. Um, Not far after, Hashimoto dies. The empire falls. Survivors burn the tower and flee across Laruke. So the tower that he once had is destroyed, and the survivors flee across Laruke, become oracles, hide in caves and mountains, and they know things that most people don't. Um, Hashimoto's resurrection. So a collector from an underground society possesses and resurrects Hashimoto. He's looking for artifacts, grabs an artifact, gets basically cursed, and becomes Hashimoto's royal diplomat. And the tower starts reforming um, and formates and becomes a big tower. Sorry, formate. I don't think that's a word, but forms. Um, I would say something like 20 years, not super far after Hashimoto's resurrection, Vulture is born. He's born in Caravan into a happy family. And, at this point, Hashimoto's just beginning to sort of reconquer the land of Laruke because he's resurrected so far into the future. He has to kind of assess everything that's going on and sort of plan his army of minions and make sure that everything is sort of like up to date. So that's why he kind of incorporates robotic minions and things like that because um, there are there have been a lot of advancements since he was gone initially. So Vulture's born into a happy family in his village of Karaban. The village is attacked by Hashimoto, killing Vulture's parents. Vulture seeks vengeance. So, this is where we are. Everything that happened is all in the past, and these things will be sort of explained in episodes. But right now, this is where we are. So, in the land of Laruke, as I said before, it's very diverse with its ecosystem, its plant life, the backgrounds that you'll see in the show, the places that Vulture travels to, um, and between again very natural and beautiful looking scenery, he'll also encounter remains of bloody battles. Um, he may come across, strange contraptions, abandoned buildings, destroyed villages, caves, and even artifacts of Laruke's very distant past. So as you can see, there's some remains there. There's some arrows here and here. A lot of things like that. And this is a big one. I actually haven't officially posted this art right here, but it is coming soon to my Instagram. Um, Basically, this is the entire land of Laruke. It's basically a giant island. There's a few smaller islands, mountains across the coastlines here. Um, of course, these lines, the grass and the crystal plains here, the grasslands, the crystal plains, all these things, they're not a perfect like color change here. It obviously sort of like fades into these different areas. But again, just to sort of establish the boundaries of the different places Vulture will go to, um, this is the map. So here's Caravan. This is where Vulture was born and raised. And once that gets destroyed, he sort of travels downstream to Vic's village, and that's where he meets Vic. Um, and yeah, I have episodes planned. Some of them written, some of them even storyboarded, um, for a lot of these different places here. And every one of these places, there's unique people, culture, um, creatures, different forms of technology throughout the land of Laruke. There's sort of a vast difference in what sort of areas have more technologically advanced populations and things like that, which we'll uncover a little more. I do want to touch on it, but yeah, there are a lot of places for Vulture to explore. So, creatures of Laruke, from the seas of Laruke to the midst of the Arakalu Desert, you'll find mutants, robots, giant insects, ghosts, and everything in between. Um, yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, everything kind of goes. In the land of Laruke, there are so many different things that Vulture will come across. Um, Again, from giant insects to robotic enemies to warriors to mutants to ghosts and other types of spirits, cursed, entities, and things like that. Um, there's, so many things Vulture will come across. And so this is, for reference, a giant plant. There's also, some birds here, fish in the pond, a deer, very, very simple animals as well, but there's also giant plants that will eat Vulture with, like acidic saliva. There's giant snakes, and a bunch of other things right here. All kinds of different creatures and monsters that Vulture may come across. He might not necessarily fight all of those things. Some of them might be sort of like allies to Vulture. He might use them as, transportation, depending on what kind of animal they are or whatever. Or some of them might just kind of be in the background to sort of help build the world. But yeah, the creatures, the scenery, the lore, it's all very important to the immersiveness of the land of Laruke and Vulture of Laruke. Um, So as I said, the technology in Vulture of Laruke is, or I should say, the land of Laruke. It's very different in different parts of the the land because, some places just had more resources, some places just had more um, technologically advanced placement for things. Um, civilizations across the Rook have developed different types of weapons, vehicles, and architecture. These different civilizations use different resources for fuel, and some are technologically more advanced than others. Many weapons are activated and or attack in many different ways. Some weapons may be enchanted or shoot various types of projectiles. So, if you're in the swamp, there might be creatures that have very acidic projectile weapons that will dissolve skin or something like that because they have found maybe like pools where there's acidic fluid, or if someone goes to like the lava lands, maybe they found a way to sort of manufacture like weapons that can harness that energy, or even shoot the lava as a projectile. um, so those are just some examples. Here's some art. So as you can see, a lot of these, mostly these are swords. There are some guns lower, but um, obviously these kind of weapons right here you would find in like, the forest. These are gonna be more like in the desert. Also, these are going to be probably in the desert. These are a lot more technologically advanced. They're very electronic. This one also buzzes like a chainsaw. So you get it. There are a lot of different types of weapons that Vulture will come across. Again, acidic weapons, weapons that shoot fire, weapons that use crystals to shoot, and maybe they break off into shards and shoot. Obviously, this looks kind of like a needler from Halo because I'm also very inspired by Halo. But yeah, plasma kind of projectile weapons, and then very classical like weapons that shoot bullets, like real life. Some even shoot. Let me see if I can get this real quick. This one, for instance, these two actually shoot seeds. So, just different ways of kind of making, not only the weapons more diverse, but like the different cultures and the different species of creatures and things like that in Laruke more immersive. I hate saying that word too many times, but it really is the main word of Vulture of Laruke. It is the very description of Vulture of Laruke. So let's talk about encounters here. Vulture will also encounter all of these strange creatures as he makes his way through Hashimoto. Vulture will encounter all of these strange creatures as he makes his way through Laruke to find Hashimoto, sorry. As a scavenger, he will use many of these weapons and devices in order to survive the brutal yet beautiful land of Laruke. So, because he's a scavenger, he's always looking for new equipment. I would say probably every episode he finds something that helps him throughout the episode. And he just kind of adapts to his environment and to the technology around him. And so he'll often steal things, but again, it's to survive or to even possibly save someone else. So, you know, partly self-serving, partly altruistic. Again, he develops over time in this series to become more heroic. Um, Vulture and his allies will gain notoriety and will find themselves on the run from both bounty hunters and Hashimoto's minions. So we've stated that Hashimoto will be fighting his minions, but there are a lot of enemies that he will encounter along the way as well, other enemies. So we're just gonna let this play. So, for instance, bounty hunters that will be sort of paid by Hashimoto. This section is going to somewhat have spoilers, so I just want everyone to be aware of that. Um, this isn't final. This isn't 100% gonna be what happens. Um, and these are kind of just ideas. Not all of these are completely fully written out, but I wanted to provide this to just show how the series could go over time, um, especially to networks and any of the higher ups that could see this and sort of realize that like this cartoon has sustainability to it. Um, so I did want to provide these episode ideas in chronological order because it is important for the show. So the first episode, which I've made an animatic for, that's currently on my YouTube channel, is called The Crystal Plains. And basically Vulture is attacked for trespassing in the Crystal Plains while searching for an old friend. Hashimoto's soldiers sort of find Vulture and they attack him. Vulture retaliates. Things get messy. He's in, foreign lands, and Hashimoto sends reinforcements, which we won't get, too far into if you haven't seen the animatic. But these reinforcements come into the Crystal Plains, and the Crystal Raiders, or the inhabitants of the Crystal Plains, attack those. So they're defending their place. Both Hashimoto's troops and Vulture are in this foreign land, as Vulture searches for Vic, and it becomes a big messy situation where Vulture has to sort of maneuver through, and so that's really the first episode. That's where you kind of see Vulture looking for his good old friend Vic, and we will continue. So the Uni village, Vulture runs out of fuel and finds himself saving a village of wooden creatures from a monster. I did storyboard this. I might re-storyboard it because it is very old and my drawing wasn't super great back then. But we're not gonna get too far into each one of these episodes because spoilers and because they're really just ideas. Not all of these are written, but yeah. So number 3, the demon. Vulture gets into an accident. Will his mind plays tricks on him. His deception leads to the awakening of a demonic entity. Episode 4, the first battle. As Vulture continues his journey, he is confronted by the very evil he seeks to destroy. Number 5, and you could say 6. As Vulture recovers from battle in one of Laruke's safest towns, he learns he truly can't escape danger. Gray of Caraban. Vulture's real name is Gray. I didn't really mention that, but it did say that earlier in the presentation here. Vulture opens up to Alia about his troubles and why he wants to destroy Lord Hashimoto, sorry. Flight of the Vulture. While encountering a wild forest falcon, Vulture accidentally takes flight, and it helps him get back to his land cruiser. The Wavy Apes. Vulture encounters a group of dangerous primates that have created a coup with weapons from the Muscon War. The Wetlands. Vulture continues down the rivers of the wetlands of Laruke. Dangerous plants and insects stand in the way. Monezuma, the hunter of snakes. Traveling further into unknown lands, Vulture is poisoned and must rely on a snake hunter to survive. Vulture meets a scientist, Dendro's laboratory. Vulture meets a scientist who gives him insight on the demise of Hashimoto. The Legion of Scales in the swamplands of Laruke. Vulture is attacked by crocodilian bounty hunters. Vic the bounty hunter. Vulture finally meets up with his mentor and they fight the Legion of Scales once more. The Battle for Bayshire Part 3. Bayshire's vulnerable state allows it to be attacked once again by Hashimoto. Alia and many others escape in search of Vulture. The Green Man, Vulture and Vic catch up and begin to form a plan as they meet a guide who tells them of an ancient oracle. Betrayal, Vulture and Vic find themselves in a standstill as they enter a portal. The Arakalu Desert, Vulture is teleported to the Arakalu Desert and must find a way to reach Vic once again. Wars in the Sand, Vulture stumbles into a battlefield in the desert and must fight to survive. The Lost City of Triglar, Vulture seeks the Lost City of Triglar to find a portal and accidentally unleashes a curse. Have a Nice Trip, Vulture struggles to survive in the dry desert and is forced to face his inner self. So a lot of those are purposely sort of obtuse because I don't want to give too much away, but this is a general roadmap to where the story of Vulture of Laruke sort of progresses. Again, I don't want to keep hammering it in, but they're just ideas. So, Dungeons of Laruke, we're talking about the franchise at this point, and there are many other ideas I have, but really the only big one that I wanted to include in this presentation here, this pitch Bible, was Dungeons of Laruke. And what is Dungeons of Laruke? Well, Dungeons of Laruke is a video game idea that I have for Vulture of Laruke because I feel like the medium of a cartoon for Vulture of Laruke is great, but it also applies, I think the concept of Vulture of Laruke also applies very well to the medium of a video game, just because swords, dungeons, different characters and enemies and weapons and things like that. I think the diversity of like technology and creatures and all of that just works really well in the concept of a video game. So, beneath the surface of Laruke, there is a vast underground system of tunnels known as the Dungeons of Laruke. This is something that's in the show. Within these dungeons lies many treasures, but there are also many dangers to be wary of. Cursed spirits, angry beasts, and intricate booby traps plague these dungeons. So there's a lot of stuff to look out for, but there's a lot of loot. And that's very important because it's planned to be a top-down action RPG. So these are sort of like the main elements to the game. Gameplay, top-down action RPG, classic dungeon crawler kind of game. Timing-based fighting mechanics. So, everyone loves Dark Souls and everyone loves comparing video games to Dark Souls and Elden Ring and things like that. But it's a tried and true It's a tried and true combat sort of system that everybody loves, and I think it works perfect for a game like this. I want to incorporate multiple game modes as well. So of course a story mode would be great, but really I think when you play a game like this, the story is sort of second because you just want to get through some dungeons, find some loot, kill some enemies, kill some bosses. So I think a rogue mode where it's sort of like procedurally generated levels kind of form as you get through each level I think that'd be really cool. And if you die, you die, because roguelikes are also really really fun. So I think sort of like a rogue mode would be fun. We could also add like a survival mode of some sort where you're kind of just fighting off waves of enemies and putting down like traps and things like that. I think that'd be cool. Um, but really the main one would be like a rogue mode or like a story mode, because it is sort of evolves around a story. um, and it would have a pixel art aesthetic, obviously still super popular, still a very great way to sort of detail a game, and a lot of loot, because what's a top down RPG, a dungeon crawler of any kind, without finding treasure chests and things like that, and getting new weapons and upgrades and things like that. That's the whole purpose of the game. It's just finding new things to kill enemies with. So these are some examples of pixel art sprites for the characters, and here are more for the weapons that I made. I'm not a coder of any kind, or even an animator. So I think making sprites is something I'm more than happy to do. For something like this, I love making these. These are so fun to kind of just churn out. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of different sprites that I made, including way more characters than these. These are like the main three that I wanted to show off, because these are very prominent figures in the cartoon, including Vulture, Lord Hashimoto, and Arid. Um, but yeah, again, these sprites are just show the diversity of weapons and things like that, and just the potential that the game has. These books would be like sort of like perks, so to speak, sort of like upgrades. These would be like shields, but you could also have like gauntlets that have certain abilities, more shields over here, knives, an encapsulator, which is something Vulture uses from time to time, that sort of like sucks in liquids and things like that, and can be sort of shot back out or purify water. So yeah, just a lot of different unique weapons, abilities, and equipment. And so where are we going with this? What is the point? What is this? What's the goal here? Ultra Blue for Adult Swim, baby. It's the only place it belongs. Let's be real. And look at that. It was an hour exactly since we started this. So I appreciate everyone who came to watch me explain this. I hope to make a video on this soon, a more formal video, with editing and everything. But yeah, this is something I've worked on for a long time. I made all the art, all the music, a lot of the sound effects, except the little that I didn't make. But yeah, lot of stuff, lot of ideas, a lot of things in the works still. But yeah, a lot of time. I've worked on this for really the idea of Vulture for 7 to 8 years at this point. So it really means a lot for everyone tuning in, showing love to my ideas. Again, a lot of things on the way, a lot of Vulture related things on the way, but also a lot of other things on the way as well. And so yeah, I appreciate everything. Thank you once again. I just wanted to do a short stream to sort of explain everything. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. I am now going to get off Twitch. Peace.